You think light is fast, but what if I told you it's not light that's special, it's reality itself, because no matter how fast you move, no matter how hard you chase, the universe always wins. Your time slows, your space shrinks, your now starts to crack. And the closer you get to light speed, the more the universe rewrites you instead. By the end of this video, you won't just understand how fast light moves, you'll understand why the universe refuses to let you move faster. You think speed is something you can feel, something you can beat, something you can leave behind when you run faster than the wind, or throw a ball from a moving car. Your instincts tell you that motion stacks, that every push adds to the last, that the universe keeps a simple score of how fast you go and where you end up at the edge of every moment. You believe you fully understand it. But hidden inside reality is a rule that quietly refuses to play along with your expectations, a number that behaves unlike any other speed you have ever measured, a limit that does not care who you are, how fast you travel, or which direction you choose to call forward when you chase it across the sky or through the silent dark where stars drift and time waits for no one as your questions grow louder. We call this number the speed of light, but that name hides its true role in the story of the universe, because light does not own this limit. Space-time does, and every particle, every signal, and every heartbeat is forced to follow the boundaries it draws. Whether you stand still on solid ground or race through the void as clocks whisper and distances bend around your moving frame in ways you cannot yet imagine now. Imagine holding a flashlight in your hand and watching its beams stretch into the night, believing that if you were to leap forward fast enough, you could somehow chase it, catch it, or at least close the gap between you and that escaping thread of brightness as your breath quickens and your heart drums louder inside your chest while the universe quietly rearranges itself to keep its promise, no matter how hard you try now. The closer you push toward that forbidden boundary, the stranger the world around you becomes, because time inside you begins to slow. Your seconds stretch longer than the ones left behind, and the space ahead of you compresses, folding the road into something shorter until motion itself feels like a conversation between your body and reality, where every step rewrites the rules you thought you knew about how far and how fast anything can go. This is the moment when you realize you are not simply moving through a passive universe. You are negotiating with an active structure that responds to your speed, your direction, and even your attempt to understand what it allows and what it forbids, as if the cosmos is listening carefully every time you ask how it works, and answering not with words, but with the shape of time that carries you forward, whether you choose. Now that you have felt the universe push back against your instinct to outrun light, it is time to see how deep this rule truly reaches. Because the limit you just encountered is not only about speed, it is about connection. It decides what can influence what, which events can touch each other across the vastness of space, and which moments are forever sealed off, no matter how powerful the signal you try to send, or how desperate the message you wish to deliver. Picture the universe as a web of invisible lines, stretching outward from every event that ever happens. When something occurs, it does not simply exist in isolation. It sends ripples of influence outward, carried by light, by gravity, by every force that can move information from one place to another. But these ripples do not spread instantly. They are bound by that same cosmic speed, the same unbreakable boundary that shapes your motion and bends your time. This creates a hidden geometry of reality. Around every moment, there is a region that can be affected by it, and a region that cannot. The future you can touch lies inside that expanding bubble of influence. The rest of the universe, for now, is out of reach, sealed behind a horizon drawn not by distance alone, but by the flow of time itself. Now imagine two events happening far apart in space. One here, one there. You might ask which one happened first. It feels like a simple question, But the universe does not always agree with you. For observers moving differently, those two events can trade places in time. One can be first for you, second for someone else. There is no single universal clock-keeping score for everything that exists. This is where the idea of a shared now begins to fall apart. The present moment you feel so strongly is local, tied to your path through space-time. Beyond your immediate surroundings, the universe is filled with other nows, unfolding along different routes, each one just as real, each one following the same rule that keeps light from ever being outrun. And yet, despite this strange freedom in how time can be arranged, the limit still stands. Because must come before effect within that bubble of influence. You cannot send a message to your own past. You cannot reach across space-time to change an event that lies outside your allowed future. The universe protects its story from being rewritten. This is not a limitation meant to frustrate you. It is a structure that makes consistency possible. It allows patterns to form, histories to exist, and memories to mean something instead of dissolving into chaos, where every moment could undo the last. In the next part, you will see how this invisible boundary does something even more surprising. It does not just limit signals and events, it shapes the very energy and mass of the objects that move within it, turning speed itself into a kind of resistance that grows the harder you try to escape the rule that holds the universe together. By now, you may be wondering why the universe seems to fight back when you try to move faster, why speed turns into something heavy, something stubborn, something that refuses to be pushed, no matter how powerful your engines or how determined your will becomes. This is where motion stops being a simple act and starts becoming a negotiation with the very fabric of space-time. In everyday life, you feel mass as weight, as the resistance you sense when you lift a stone or push a car that has run out of fuel. But at high speeds, mass reveals another face. It becomes inertia in its purest form, a growing reluctance to change, a deepening refusal to let your path bend any further toward that forbidden boundary you have been chasing since the first moment you learned about light. As you accelerate, something inside you changes. Your energy does not simply make you go faster. It sinks into you, adding itself to your motion, swelling your presence in the universe. The faster you move, the harder it becomes to add even a tiny fraction more speed, as if each step forward demands more from you than the last. It is because the universe is counting. It is keeping track of how much of your motion is spent moving through space and how much is spent moving through time. Every increase in speed through space steals a little more from your motion through time, slowing your internal clock, stretching your moments, and thickening your resistance to further change. In particle accelerators, this strange behavior becomes visible. Scientists pour energy into tiny fragments of matter, expecting them to race away faster and faster. At first, they do. But as they approach the speed of light, something unexpected happens. The added energy no longer turns into speed. It turns into weight, into inertia, into a growing demand that seems to approach infinity. This is the universe drawing its line. To reach the speed of light would require an infinite amount of energy, an endless push against a rule that does not yield. No object with mass can cross that boundary, not because of a technical limitation, but because the structure of space-time itself will not allow the balance between space and time to be broken. And yet, there are travelers that live on the other side of this rule. Particles with no mass, like light, feel no resistance at all. From their perspective, the journey is instantaneous, a leap from creation to arrival with no moment in between. In the next part, you will see how this divide between mass and light reveals a deeper connection that binds motion, energy, and existence into one quiet, universal pattern. Now that you have seen how speed turns into resistance, and energy turns into something that feels like weight, it is time to step back and notice the pattern quietly forming beneath everything. Motion, mass, and time are not separate characters in this story. They are different faces of the same underlying rule, woven together so tightly that pulling on one always tugs at the others. This connection becomes clearer when you look at how energy behaves at the deepest level. Every object, no matter how still it seems, carries a hidden reserve of motion inside it. Even when you are standing perfectly still, your atoms vibrate, your particles shift, and your presence in space-time hums with activity. This restless energy is not an accident. It is part of what it means to exist. When you move faster, you're not simply changing your position. You are changing how your energy is distributed between space and time. The more you lean into motion through space, the more your motion through time is reduced. This trait is not optional. It is enforced by the same structure that keeps light's speed constant and prevents mass from ever crossing that final boundary. At this point, the universe begins to look less like a collection of things and more like a network of relationships. Objects are not defined only by where they are, but by how they move, how they interact, and how they fit into the larger pattern of cause and effect that flows outward from every event. This is why energy and mass can transform into each other. Under the right conditions, motion can become matter, and matter can dissolve back into motion. The distinction you feel between something solid and something active is not as sharp as your senses suggest. Beneath the surface, they are part of the same story, written in different chapters of the same cosmic language. This realization changes how you look at the limits of the universe. The speed of light is not just a cap on motion. It is a bridge between categories you once thought were separate. It ties together what you can touch, what you can see, and what you can measure, turning them into expressions of a single, deeper rule that governs how reality holds itself together. And now, the picture grows even larger, because this rule does not only shape small particles and fast-moving travelers, it also reaches across vast distances, guiding how stars form, how galaxies spin, and how the universe itself evolves over billions of years. In the next part, you will step away from the scale of human experience and look outward, where the same invisible boundary that limits your motion also sets the stage for the birth of light, the stretching of space, and the slow, silent expansion of everything that exists. You will see how a rule that seems personal, tied to your own movement and time, is actually written across the entire sky, waiting to be read by anyone who dares to follow its path to the edge of the observable universe. When you lift your eyes from your own motion and look into the sky, the same rule that shapes your seconds and your steps is quietly at work on a scale so vast it almost feels unreal. Every star you see is not a star as it is now, but a message sent across time, a story carried by light that has been traveling for years, centuries, or even millions of years before it reaches your eyes. This means the universe is not something you observe in the present. It is something you read from the past. The night sky is a layered archive of moments, stacked one behind another, each point of light marking a different chapter in the history of existence. The speed of light is what makes this possible. It turns distance into time and space into a record of what once was. As you look farther away, you look deeper into history. Nearby stars show you recent events. Distant galaxies reveal a universe that was younger, hotter, and more chaotic than the one you live in now. At the farthest edge you can see, the light comes from a time when stars had not yet formed, when the universe itself was still finding its shape. This creates a cosmic horizon. Beyond a certain distance, light has not had enough time to reach you since the beginning of the universe. Those regions may exist, but they are sealed off, not by a physical wall, but by the finite speed at which information can travel. The universe is larger than what you can ever observe, and that limit is written by the same rule that keeps light from being outrun. The expansion of space adds another layer to this story. As the universe stretches, it carries galaxies away from each other, sometimes so quickly that their light will never reach new observers. Entire regions of reality slip beyond the horizon of what can ever be known, not because they disappear, but because the structure of space-time itself prevents their messages from crossing the growing gap. In this way, the speed of light becomes more than a limit. It becomes a storyteller. It decides which parts of the universe can share their history with you and which will remain forever silent, existing beyond your reach in a darkness that is not empty, but simply unheard. And yet, even within these boundaries, the universe continues to reveal its patterns. By studying the light that does arrive, you can reconstruct the past, measure the age of the cosmos, and trace the evolution of everything from the first atoms to the galaxies that now paint the sky. In the final part, you will return from these immense distances back to yourself. You will see how this same cosmic rule, written across billions of years and trillions of miles, also lives inside your own experience of time, memory, and choice, quietly shaping what it means to exist in a universe that moves forward at a speed nothing can ever surpass. After traveling across the scale of the cosmos, you arrive back where this story truly began, inside your own experience of time. The rule that limits light and shapes galaxies also defines how your memories form, how your decisions unfold, and how the present moment slides into the past without ever allowing you to step outside its flow. Every thought you have is a physical process, a pattern of signals moving through your brain at speeds far slower than light, yet still bound by the same structure that governs the universe at its largest scale. Your awareness is a small, local event inside a vast web of cause and effect, a point where countless influences meet and move forward together into the next moment. This is why the idea of changing the past feels so tempting and so impossible at the same time. The boundary that prevents you from sending a signal faster than light is the same boundary that keeps yesterday fixed and tomorrow open. It protects the sequence of events that gives meaning to choice, consequence, and responsibility. When you look at the world this way, the speed of light stops being an abstract number and starts becoming a kind of guide. It tells you where influence can reach, where knowledge can travel, and where uncertainty must remain. It defines the edge of what can be known, not just in distant galaxies, but in the unfolding of your own life. There is a quiet humility in this realization. No matter how advanced your tools become, no matter how far your theories reach, there will always be a horizon you cannot cross, a region of reality that lies beyond the reach of your questions and your instruments. The universe invites you to explore, but it also reminds you that exploration has limits written into its very design. And yet, within those limits, an extraordinary freedom exists. You can measure, predict, and understand patterns that span from the smallest particles to the largest structures in the sky. You can build technologies that rely on time dilation, communication systems that depend on precise knowledge of light speed, and maps of the cosmos that trace the path of its expansion across billions of years. This is the quiet triumph of science. Not that it removes all mystery, but that it turns mystery into a landscape you can navigate, even if you can never reach every corner of it. The speed of light is not a wall meant to stop you. It is a boundary that gives shape to the journey, a frame that allows the story of the universe to unfold in a way that can be followed, tested, and shared. So when you step outside and look up at the night sky, remember that you are not just seeing distant stars. You are participating in a conversation that spans time itself, carried by light, shaped by the same rule that guides your own path forward, one moment at a time, through a universe that moves relentlessly toward the future, inviting you to move with it, even as it gently reminds you where the edge of motion forever remains.